is a synonym. If a child, by the time the child enters kindergarten, they should have had formal instruction. They should have been taught what the letters of the alphabet are, what the sounds of the letters are, and at that point we can begin to assess sound symbol association more effectively. By the time a child has finished the second year of reading instruction, they should be able to break their words into their sounds. That's what we call phoneme segmentation. So we should be able to do that. So we may see problems with phoneme segmentation, phoneme deletion, problems with specific word retrieval and rapid word retrieval. And as they're getting older, the teachers will be able to recognize this very quickly. How do we evaluate a child with dyslexia? Well, we need to make sure that the sensory system is intact. So we will assess hearing and vision. We may, we should assess the 4 points of entry into the system. We need to assess the mental age or cognition of the child. We need to assess processing speed. We need to assess for attention. Once that happens, we then need to begin to assess the processes of vision and the auditory processing and the tactile kinesthetic processing. Ultimately, we will assess the skill level for reading and writing. So we have 3 types of tests. The tests that help us ascertain academic potential, which we generally refer as intelligence tests. Tests of learning style or processing, where working memory, processing speed, visual spatial abilities are assessed in a slightly different way than what they are in the IQ testing. And then the tests of skill, which are the test of reading, writing, and arithmetic. And in the test of skill, we're going to assess, for example, in reading decoding, then we assess fluency and ultimately comprehension. In writing, we assess spelling, we assess content and fluency, and in math, we assess computation, math applications, and again, fluency. So we will be assessing oral and silent reading, and you need to do an assessment of oral reading so that you can listen to the mistakes that the child will typically make. You will assess fluency and ultimately did they understand what they read. Again, in writing, we're going to assess spelling, sentence construction, how well the ideas were developed, how automatic was that process. Once we have a good description of what's going on, we can formulate an intervention to manage it. The essential components of an appropriate reading curriculum should be phonemic awareness. They teach the child how to recognize, remember, and manipulate individual sounds. The second one will be phonics and word recognition. Teach sound symbol relationships and word meaning. We need to work with reading fluency. The child should be able to read with sufficient speed and accuracy to support comprehension. We need to work on vocabulary development, the individual meaning of words. And ultimately, we need to look at strategies of comprehension and verbal reasoning. When working with reading instruction, we will have to work with writing because individuals with reading problems usually have writing problems. So we need to teach basic writing skills on how to compose sentences with accuracy, fluency, and clarity of expression, and also need to teach them how to comprehend and use language effectively. The type of instruction needs to be explicit. Just immersing a child in a language-rich environment is not going to teach them the basic concepts that need to be known. The instruction needs to be systematic. The speech, sound, spelling patterns, sentence structure, the type of sentences that we are generating and the language conventions must be taught. The children must understand what the rules are. We need to understand that the learning of language is a sequential task, is cumulative. So it has to be taught in steps that are manageable, and the next step is going to build on previously learned information. It should be introduced through the 3 modalities of intervention: visual, auditory, and tactile kinesthetic, so it should be multisensory. And the student progress should be measured regularly to make sure that the strategies that are being used are being effective in managing these symptoms. It is important that these intervention services are provided prior to the third grade, because remember, after the third grade is when students begin to read to learn. No one is going to spend time teaching reading after the third grade. So it makes it very difficult because the students are acquiring content as opposed to different skills of learning. This is a study that was done in 1998 looking at the actual number of words that an average fifth grade reader in the United States reads when compared with a child with dyslexia. In the chart on your right, the area that is circled in yellow is a typical reader. It's a child in the 50th percentile who will read approximately 600,000 words per year. If you notice, the area that is marked in red is a child with dyslexia that reads in the 10th percentile, and that child will read approximately 51,000 words per year, less than 10 times the individual that is average will read 10 times more than the individual with dyslexia, which would have a devastating impact on the child's ability to learn. Another important thing about the management of individuals with dyslexia shown in this slide, these are adults. In what this showed, if you remember the pictures of the brain that I showed you previously, we have two columns here. On the left column we have 8 brains. The brains that are circled in blue are the left side of the brain, and the one circled in yellow are the right side of the brain. These are 8 adults that were identified as having dyslexia. And if you remember, when I showed you the diagrams of the brain before, the areas that were highlighted in red indicated that the brain was active in those areas. As you can see here, there's very little activity on that blue area of the brain. And there's a lot of activity on the right brain where it should not be. However, after explicit, systematic, sequential instruction, we see that the brain functioning has been changed in these individuals, and that all of a sudden we begin to see more activation of the left brain when it's supposed to, and less activation of the right brain, which is what the column on the right demonstrates. So what we know right now is that we can teach individuals with dyslexia, and with proper instruction we can actually change brain functioning, and we can allow these individuals to become better readers. And as the statistics showed originally, as I showed you in the first few slides, the impact on the quality of life of these individuals could be very dramatic and very significant in terms of occupation, level of income, and general success in life. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to present in your Congress. It has been an honor, and I hope that this has been of some help in understanding the challenges that individuals with reading problems experience. Thank you very much. Obrigado.